Hello everyone, and welcome back to Uncle Matt's Workbench. Today I have in front of me a vintage Kenner Rebel Snowspeeder. I picked this up a while back at Toys of Our Youth. I showed you this vehicle in a previous video where I was talking about projects I'd be undertaking in the near future, and for this project I needed a lot of missing parts. Well, today I met with Mark from Toys of Our Youth again. He had another bin of parts for me to look through, and I found some cannons. I found the canopy glass that I was missing, and a couple of rear thrusters. Now these thrusters are actually from the Power of the Force Snowspeeder. You can tell here by this weathering that's on here. They're the same mold as the vintage Kenner, so they actually fit, and I'm not a big fan of Power of the Force, particularly the figures. I just don't like the mold on the sculpts for the figures at all. But the vehicles I actually do like, because they're basically the same as the vintage, but they have this weathering and they're slightly different color plastic. Now I would never alter a vintage piece for use on a Power of the Force, but I don't have a problem altering the Power of the Force pieces for use on a vintage. So in order for these to fit more with the vintage, I have done a test on this one to remove the weathering, and what I did was I just used some naphtha and a cotton swab to remove some of that black paint, and which is not a big deal. All this is just black overspray. That's all it is. If I ever wanted to convert this back to the Power of the Force, I could paint this like this myself, and you'd never know the difference. So it's not that big a deal. I'm going to remove the paint from this one too to look more like this one, and I'm going to get down in the little nooks and crannies and get the rest of this off as well. But I'm going to do that later. In the meantime, I need to kind of assess the damage, onto this main body, and kind of map out what needs to be done and what doesn't. Unfortunately, these vintage stickers here aren't really in that good of shape. I would try really hard to salvage these if they were in good shape, but they're not. You can see this one here really isn't even red anymore. It looks like these were submerged in water at one time. You see that's all wrinkled, and that one is too, and split. That one, this one's peeling up. I could stick that back down, but these are really in rough shape. So I think I will get some reproduction stickers for this, and yeah, I'm not too thrilled with these stickers, especially this bottom one. It looks pretty bad. That's probably a matter of taste, though. Some people might think, hey, these are in pretty good shape, but for me, to my eye, I really don't like the condition of these stickers. Now this one is not so bad. Neither is this one. Those two actually are in pretty good shape. I'll probably leave those there, even if I get some reproduction stickers. But on the other hand, if I want to do a real thorough cleaning of this unit, this machine, this ship, then I'm gonna have to sacrifice the stickers. I think I can remove these with naphtha and let them dry out and be able to salvage them and use them elsewhere, or maybe sell them to somebody else who wants them. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to carefully remove every one of these without trying not to tear them, and just save them. And I will use reproduction stickers. Now I want to take a look in the battery compartment here. Now these are a little bent out of shape, but that's easy to fix. There's not much corrosion in there at all, but it's not real clean either. I have put batteries in it and tested it. The motor started to fire up, but it it's seized, so the motor is seized up. I'm going to have to fix that. The lights do come on, I know that already. So the electronics are good, just need a little bit of work. Let's see, the canopy comes off really easy, so that's going to have to be fixed. I'll probably just fix that with, you know, a drop of super glue here and here to give it some thickness to help it grab on a little tighter, but it's never going to just lock in there and stay there. I don't think any of these ships do that. It's pretty dirty on the inside, so I'm definitely going to disassemble this and give it a good cleaning. Now, this side of the ship here is pretty close to the original color. It's not very bad, but over here it's pretty yellowed, and you can really tell by comparing the battery compartment to it right next to it. The battery compartment is pretty close to the original color, but you see the side by side is pretty yellowed. I don't think I'm going to retro bride it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to submerge the top in soapy water and use very gently use a magic eraser. I don't want to, if you scrub with one of those, you remove too much, you remove plastic. But you know, if you're very gentle with it, you're at best you're just going to remove just a very microscopic thin layer off the surface, not much to worry about at all. You're really, I just want to remove some of the staining. I'm not going to de-yellow it all the way. Depends on how, I'll clean it, see how it looks after that, and if I think I want to de-yellow it after that, maybe I will. So here's something. These are notorious for breaking off, this back engine one, and as a matter of fact, whenever I bought this was not broken. But since I've had it, just from moving it a few times and just moving it around, it has broken. You see it's come loose. It's just barely hanging on by one peg over here. I can see inside of here where all of those pegs have broken off and the glue seam is broken. So I'm going to have to repair that as well. So let's start breaking it down and get to work on this guy. Okay, so if I really want to get this clean, I'm gonna have to remove all of this wiring. I don't really want to do all of that, but I'm afraid it's inevitable. Luckily, with this particular piece, none of this wiring is riveted to the body, which like with the X-Wings, this little thing here is that would not be on a housing like this that comes out. It would actually be riveted right there, but since this is made the way it is, I can just remove that. I can remove all of this actually and set it aside and be just fine. And that's what I'm going to do, just for the sake of being able to get this as clean as I can get it. I can just set this tape off to the side for a minute. I don't know if I'll probably use brand new tape to replace that. But you know what, in the meantime, let's put some batteries in here. See if I can get this motor to run. And it works. With these motors, sometimes all it takes is just to hand crank it a little bit after they've seized up, and they'll fire right up most of the time. Okay. Okay. Now before I can clean this up, I want to remove these stickers in a safe manner before submersing any of these parts into a bath. And the best way I know to do that is to use a mild solvent. I use naphtha. Use a mild solvent on a cotton swab to saturate these stickers with, and leave it on there just enough to soften up the adhesive, and then I should be able to lift them right off without any trouble. And for these larger ones, I'm going to use this cotton ball. Going to use this razor just to get under the corner, see if it starts to lift up and off. It's not quite ready to come off yet. That sticker is starting to lift off of there relatively easily. Unlike water, this naphtha is not going to cause this paper to swell, thicken. So I can actually just lay that over here, let it dry, and I could actually reuse that sticker at a later date if I wanted to. So a lot of those stickers came off really easy. A few of them not so much, and I may not be able to save every one of them, but most of those are completely salvageable. I can reuse them on this one if I choose to, or I can save them for another project another day, or maybe even trade them off or sell them to someone else who needs them. Now that I've got all of that taken care of, all that off, you can really see where the stickers came off, how badly yellowed this thing is. And it's making an even more convincing case for me to do a retro bright process on this, because this is the original color. This is what it is now. Again, I'm going to give it a bath and see how clean it comes before I decide whether or not to do that. Okay, now that these parts have been cleaned, I can see much better just how bad the yellowing is, especially where the stickers used to be. Like I was saying with the Magic Eraser, it's safe to use them to remove stains and stuff, but not if you have to really scrub. That's when you get into trouble, where you start to remove plastic. And the Magic Eraser, using it gently, didn't remove much of this yellowing. So I think I am going to retro bright this piece. Not sure if that really needs to be done on the bottom. There is a little bit of difference between where that sticker was and the sides, but it's not very bad. It's hardly noticeable at all. It's actually more yellow on the inside than it is on the outside, which is very odd, but it's so. And I'm not worried about so much about the inside. I want the inside clean, like I don't want dirt in there, but no one sees it. I'm not that worried about it. These slightly yellow just on one side of each of them, so I'll go ahead and put those in the retro bright as well. This part, probably not, but this top part definitely so. The canopy, not so much. Canopy looks nice. I won't need to retro bright that, but this top piece for sure. I probably won't take it as far as to bring it all the way back to this color, but you know, to get it closer to the battery cover and canopy would be nice. So that'll be in another video. This will have a part 2. Also, there's going to be a part 2 because I am still missing a couple of pieces. I have the rear gun, but I don't have a harpoon or the block. I also don't have a landing gear, so that's the remains of what came with it. The landing gear snapped off. It's long gone. Who knows what happened to it. But so I need to acquire a landing gear. Harpoon, I'm not so much worried about. I can be patient on that one, but for this to display correctly, it does need a landing gear. Surprisingly, the cannons that I bought today are actually really nice. I did clean these, and there's no yellowing on them at all. And this canopy, it's definitely seen better days. It's not the worst one I've seen, but it is pretty scratchy, so I think I'll try to buff some of that a little bit at least to get it to look more like my rear canopy, my rear glass, which I had already cleaned and buffed prior to making this video. But to get those to match a little bit better would be nice. So for now, there's not much more I can do here, so I'm going to set it aside. And I'm going to address the issue with my Power of the Force thrusters. I want to remove the rest of that paint. So to do that, I think with this one I used a cotton swab, but I wasn't able to get in the nooks and crannies. I'm going to have to use a toothbrush in there. And I think I'll just go ahead and dip this into the naphtha I'll just put it in a small container, and I will go fetch one and do that now. Okay, so that's done, and I must say I think these look very nice, and they're gonna look really good on this snowspeeder. I should mention that I'm not wearing gloves. I should be, but I could not find any suitable for this thing. Now the naphtha, it's not like so corrosive that it's going to burn your skin. My skin is not burning right now, and it's not going to burn from this, but it will dry your hands out really quickly, and so I need to go wash it off with soap and water right away, and I'm just going to go ahead and do that right now. At the same time, I'm going to wash these parts with soap and water to get any of the remaining naphtha and paint off of these. So the next thing that I want to do is try to buff out some of the scratches in this windshield. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to try to use this polishing compound scratch remover and turtle wax. I don't have a proper buffing cloth, so I'm going to use this piece of plain white t-shirt. So I've cleaned it off, and it does look much better than it did. You can see my hand through it. You can see my pilot through it, but it's just a slight bit murky. But I know another trick that people who restore die-cast cars use for their windshields, and that is this Pledge floor gloss. I'm just going to fill a small container with it. And lay it onto this napkin. And I'll let that dry. Now I re-dipped this windshield because of the air bubbles. I wasn't thinking about it whenever I poured this into the container. I should have taken the cap off instead of using this nozzle. So now you can see there are no air bubbles in it, and it is crystal clear, and I've also dipped the rear one, so it's clear too, but it's still wet. While it's drying, I'm going to just set it aside, and I'm going to, even though it works and doesn't really need it, just to err on the side of caution, kind of preventative maintenance, I'm going to clean the battery contacts with some 1500 grit sandpaper. To bend these tabs back down a little bit, because since I'm not going to retrobrite the bottom half, I might as well reinstall the electronics now and see if I can get these bent into better shape for making contact with the batteries. So the windshields, they've had time to dry now, and I can already tell they're much, much clearer than they were. Let's see how well we can see Luke. That's pretty nice. And, rear, very nice. And that's about all I'm going to be able to do for part one. I will be back in a week or two after I have sourced all the parts I need. I'm going to need to get some developer or peroxide enough to retrobrite this part here, a couple of the smaller parts, but mainly just this one. And I also need to source a landing gear and a set of reproduction stickers. Once I have all three of those things, I will come back with part two and we will finish this restoration. So once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.